Welcome back to another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith, and it is Friday, which means no Alan Saunders, but that also means Steelers DB in the building. Derrick Bell joined the show. How we doing, pal?
Doing well, man. Hopefully this game on Sunday ends a little bit before last Sunday's game did. Hopefully no delays. But I'm excited to talk about this matchup for sure. Hopefully the Steelers can get off this, two-game slide that they're on, and then hopefully, get healthy for this home stretch coming up.
Brother, I just mentioned how long of a week it's been for me, and it started off with that game on Sunday night into Monday morning. I put out a tweet complaining about it, and I had because my alarm goes off at 7 a.m., which I get for a lot of people. That's not early, but here's the thing:
Sure.
Knew I wasn't going to get back until very late. It ended up being 3 a.m. by the time I laid down. So all those people that were coming back at me with their 4 and 5 a.m. alarms or whatever were like that, it ended up balancing out basically 4 hours of sleep by the time I got home, which is probably about how much sleep you got if you weren't at the game, watched all of it, and then went to sleep and had to wake up at that time. So either way, I'm not here to complain at this point. I just wanted to air my grievances with those people, but it wasn't all bad this week. I got to give a shout out first and foremost. The new merch from Branded and Butler. Shout out to them. Appreciate the care package that they sent me, but I got to rep them on the show. So there's that. DB, I want to dive into this matchup with the Raiders. A lot of injuries on both sides. Honestly, the Raiders, you mentioned it literally right before we started recording. A lot of things they wanted to do on both sides of the football. That's kind of been wrecked by the injuries that they've endured, and also Davante Adams not wanting to play football there anymore. So it sounds like from a positive injury standpoint for them, Jakobi Meyers and Jackson Powers-Johnson going to practice today, probably going to play on Sunday. No Michael Mayer, who's been away from the team for a couple of weeks now and is now on IR for personal reasons. Don't know what's going on there. Wish him all the best with whatever that might be. Obviously, no Davante Adams. And then on the other side, Christian Wilkins. I mean, how big of a loss is that? Just going on IR as well, their big prize free agent. I mean, so we can dive into the Steelers side of things, but I was just taking a look at the Raiders injury report, and their one for today hasn't come out yet. But just looking at yesterday's, knowing that Wilkins and Mayer on IR now, knowing the Davante Adams situation, now Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. There's just so much going on with the Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders are in a tough spot, man, just because I felt like, we were talking about this before we hit record, but, pretty much everything that they kind of envisioned their team looking like this season has been kind of just going through a demolition phase already a month in. Not just the guys that you mentioned, Christian Wilkins, but basically playing like their equivalent of Cam Heyward. I mean, he's been fantastic. Like his film is unreal. I was watching some games earlier today.
I was going to say Dexter Lawrence, but there's probably nobody playing as good as Dexter.
Yeah, Dexter's on a different, and he's like a true nose tackle. So he's on a different tier, but Wilkins is, as far as like three techs, man, like he's been phenomenal. I actually looked it up. Like him and Cam Heyward are number 1 and number 2 in terms of like run defense this year. So not really overly surprising, but it's a big loss for them. And even like beyond like the guys that you mentioned, their other edge rusher, Malcolm Kuntz, who had a huge breakout season last year. He just he ended up getting hurt before the season even began. So then you got Michael Mayer out, Davante Adams out. Jakobi Meyers a little bit banged up, but I think he's going to play. Zamir White was their RB1 coming into the season, but I think he's missed a couple of weeks now with the groin. I don't know if he's coming back. So, both sides of the ball just honestly completely wrecked for the Raiders, which, is a good break for the Steelers.
Yeah. I'm trying to go through here. Let's see if I can see anything with Zamir White. No, still did not participate the last 2 days. So I would imagine probably out here on Friday. And so would envision that that's going to swing that way as well. I mentioned the quarterback thing in there though as well with Aiden O'Connell instead of Gardner Minshew. To be honest with you, and I know the defense is different than it was last year, but Gardner Minshew played pretty well against the Steelers last year. I don't think he's somebody that you circle on the schedule and you're intimidated by. But I would say that I would, if you gave me a choice here, I would rather face Aiden O'Connell than Gardner Minshew if I'm the Steelers. Where are you at with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really just depends on how they want to play on defense. I kind of lean towards, I was kind of hoping to see Minshew just because he's a guy who holds the ball a long time and he's a guy who puts the ball in harm's way a lot. Whereas O'Connell, he's a pocket passer, so he's going to get the ball where it needs to go. He'll throw with anticipation. He doesn't have very good physical tools. He moves around the pocket about as good as you could probably expect a young quarterback too that isn't mobile whatsoever. But he's a guy who doesn't have a lot of playing experience. So you can get him with some different things, some disguises, and you can kind of bait him into some ill-advised throws. So I mean, I think it really just depends on the style of defense that you want to play. There's probably ways that you could attack both of them. I mean, we just listed off all the issues that the Raiders have going on offense right now with their weapons. Most of them not going to play in this game. So it's going to be difficult for whoever was stepping into this situation, even though the game is at home.
And on the Steelers side of things, we knew we were going to be without Alex Highsmith again, knew we were going to be without DeMonte KZ. But the one I wanted to ask you about was Jaylen Warren, because, Tomlin came out at the beginning of the week and listed him as doubtful. No Cordero Patterson, by the way, listed Jaylen Warren as doubtful to start the week. But then Jaylen Warren practices in some capacity every single day. And Allen was talking on here about how hard he was practicing, and even seeing some clips like he looks like Jaylen Warren to me. They could be cautious with it and make him wait another week. He's listed as questionable. What do you think about this? Do you think we end up seeing Jaylen Warren on Sunday?
I think there's a good chance. I mean, he was a full participant today, right?
Yeah.
Or am I bugging?
I believe it was full participant. Maybe it was, they listed him as limited. Actually, now that I'm saying it, I think the full participation was Pat and Russ.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that limited makes me a little more.
No, you're right. Full participant question.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, I mean, full participant, I would say that I think he'll probably play, right? Like in some capacity.
Yeah,
maybe
sorry,
like
you know what? I'm going to blame, I know that was on me for making that mistake, but I'm actually going to blame Allen, because the way that he put out the injury report here was DNP/out, limited practice/out, full participation/questionable, and then full participation/in. I've never seen it listed like that, so it kind of threw me off. But Jaylen Warren, yes, was full.
Yeah, I think we blame Allen. He's not here, so that's just the easy thing to do. I mean, yeah, I think that definitely when it comes to, I mean, if he's a full participant on Friday, I would expect him to play. It might be one of those situations, kind of like the Atlanta game, where the snaps are limited. They're not going to probably give him a full workload, or it won't be as split as they probably would like it to be between him and Harris. But I would think that there's probably a pretty good chance that he plays in this one, which is good. I will point this out too. Obviously, you just look at the figures and stuff like that. The Raiders in the bottom third of rushing EPA per play and rushing success rate. This is a defense that you can and really have to run on, just the way that they want to play on defense. But I will also say, like, getting Warren back in pass protection could be a good thing. I thought that there were a couple times last week in particular where the Cowboys were able to kind of take advantage of some poor reps in the pass blocking department from the backs, Shamplin and even Harris, to an extent that kind of affected some different plays. So, having him back there, a guy that knows the protections, is definitely more. I think that the way he attacks like the A gap from like blitzers at the second level is always something that impresses me. Not saying he's perfect. No running back's perfect in pass pro, but I just think his aggressiveness in those situations is really helpful in terms of keeping a clean pocket. So that would probably be something that I would say I want to see. Even if you do want to limit his touches or his carries, just get him out there so he can help protect Justin.
Yeah, no, we're not going to have Nick Herbig or DeMarvin Leal as well, and those don't seem like Allen said, he hasn't even seen Leal yet since the game, and Herbig, like, immediate, the way that he was walking, hamstring, it doesn't sound like he's going to be a quick turnaround for him getting back either. The good news is, with Alex Highsmith returning to practice this week, they've already circled that Jets game on Sunday Night Football seemingly as a target for him to get back. But for this week, we've talked about the Steelers not blitzing a lot. Is this a week where you feel like they kind of have to be able to generate that pressure? Because on the other side, it's going to be Jeremiah Moon and maybe a couple practice squad call-ups. They got Isaiah Loudermilk as the emergency guy off the edge. Like, is this the week where you feel like you have to kind of dial up some more blitzes to generate that pressure?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that they haven't put. I mean, I don't know the status of the injury. I'm kind of surprised they haven't put one of those edge rushers on IR, just because I don't know. I mean, hamstrings are usually like not 1 to 2 week injuries anyway.
Well, the thing is, how many are they at out of the 8? You can do it 8 times, right? IR.
Yeah, I guess that's probably
they're
true.
Probably just we
just got to ride it out. Already. I mean, I will just say, like, the reps that they were getting from some of the other guys, like non-Herbig, non-Watt, just weren't like you could just tell, like, the Cowboys were not going to be.
I'm not a ifs and buts guy, but like the way that game changed once Nick Herbig went out, I feel like they make enough.
He was wrecking shot, man.
Sunday night. Yeah, I feel like they make enough plays Sunday night if he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, he was definitely affecting the game in a positive manner in terms of pass rushing. I mean, I think that you make a good point. I mean, they haven't brought much pressure, but I mean, we kind of said that last week too, right? Like, that we thought that they may bring some like more simulated to be a little bit more creative. Cause like, I mean, even if, Herbig was, very much capable of starting in Highsmith's spot, I mean, your depth is getting really tested, right? Like you start to lose bodies and everybody gets kind of bumped up a notch, but we'll see. I mean, we can't really expect like any of those guys that we talked about, like the practice squad call-ups, who I will admittedly I know nothing about, or Jeremiah Moon. Like those guys aren't probably going to give you consistently good snaps against a guy like Kolton Miller, who's a perfectly fine left tackle.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's pretty good. That was honestly, like, people talk about TA in a very negative light. I think he's, an average defensive coordinator. I think that a lot of people probably hold feelings against him because of Brian Flores being let walk out the door to keep Terrell Austin. But that was my one really big gripe from last week, was the lack of adjustment once Herbig did go down, to start dialing up more pressure to be able dialing up more blitzes to generate that pressure. So that was one thing that I really go ahead.
I do want to give TA like a little bit of credit, just in terms of like some of the adjustments that they made, like game plan wise. Played a lot of too high against the Cowboys. So it was a lot of lighter boxes. And I thought they did pretty well defending the run. It was like 37% rushing success rate. I thought Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen like fit the run really well with the light box. Defensive line, I felt like played solid. But, the big thing was like they just gave up too many explosive plays. They gave up some explosive plays in too high. And like if you're playing too high, you want to get in those like cover 2 looks, playing like, 2-man or just like regular cover 2. You're trying to make sure that you limit those explosive plays, and they just did it. That gashed them with the deep, middle of the field shot with Beanie Bishop in coverage, and then they hit that whole shot to the left side of the field, down the left sideline. So, I mean, those plays were, adjustments to just simply drop it back in cover 3 for 55-60% of the time, like they have a lot this season. But, obviously the results, Dallas still moved the ball at will, despite getting some turnovers.
So you look at that defensive performance last week, obviously some highs, like you mentioned, in the run game, but too many explosive plays. I want to start talking about some of the matchups that you're looking forward to this week. Is that maybe one that you're thinking about? Like, is this defensive back, is this secondary group going to be able to rebound after what we saw last week?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The guys that I think would still be like worth talking about in terms of the Raiders that you're like really worried about. I think the big one is Brock Bowers. Like he would be, if it was me and I'm a defensive coordinator and like I'm going into the week, I'm putting a picture like of his mugshot up on the board and saying like, this is the dude that we cannot let beat us. Like whatever you got to do to make sure that doesn't happen. He's already at 28 catches, 313 yards and a touchdown so far this season. That leads all tight ends. Like Bowers is a little bit of, he can really do pretty much everything. He's fantastic after the catch. He's made some really impressive plays at the catch point, like jumping over DBs and, staying on his feet and creating explosive plays. He's a monster.
He's been as advertised. I feel like just playing in Vegas is kind of flown under the radar.
I mean, normally too, like when these like tight ends get drafted like early, like that's always the thing. It's like if you draft a tight end early, you got to realize that they're probably not going to be very good as a rookie. Like how many tight ends have we seen go in the first round that are just like not very good as rookies? Like even as strictly receivers, but Bowers has been all that and more. Like his film's really impressive. And then I've always kind of liked Jakobi Meyers, like just as a complimentary player. He's a really tough nose dude. Like he blocks, he will go over the middle. He just really makes a lot of tough catches. So those,
you put up that one clip right before we got on here. That block.
He clotheslines a linebacker springing like a 40-yard run last week against the Broncos. So I mean, I like some of the pieces. It's just like when you've got a quarterback, and this is no disrespect to Aiden O'Connell, like who I think is an NFL caliber player. It's just like when you've got a quarterback like that and you can't run the ball and your offensive line is a little bit like shaky as well, you got to give him like more help than that. I almost feel like they're feeding AOC to the wolves a little bit, because it's like, what do you expect him to do, man? Like he's going out there without, Michael Mayer, without Devontae Adams. It's just tough. The other player that they'll probably look to do, Trey Tucker. That dude can really, really run. I don't know what else he can do, but I know he can run really far. And
well, they got Jalen Guyton. He used to be with the Chargers too, who can make some splash plays. I mean, that's basically all he's going to do is stretch the field. But like to that point, if you're going to try to beat the Steelers with speed,
Yeah, but O'Connell will, like, that's one thing about that's different with him and Minshew is like O'Connell will play like more on time, whereas like Minshew is just a complete mystery box of like what you're gonna get on every snap. Like he could turn down a throw, he could spin, he could create something crazy out of nothing. You just don't know like what he's doing on a snap to snap basis. O'Connell will play more within the structure of the offense. And Tucker's a guy who like he really trusts to win deep. So that would be something like I would anticipate that the Raiders are probably going to try to design up some type of shot plays because they're not going to move the ball consistently on the Steelers defense. Like this isn't Dak. Like they're not going to move the ball 5.5, 6 yards of play and sustain the game like that. They're going to have to hit a bunch of explosives or maybe like a 56-yard touchdown to either Bowers or Tucker or somebody like that to have a chance in this one, as well as playing like really good on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, well, I want to talk to you for a bit about the Steelers' defensive front now. You just mentioned how you thought that they did against that run game of Dallas last week, and no Zamir White for the Raiders, so probably see like Alexander Madison, maybe some Amir Abdullah in this one as well. On the one side, we know, Jeremiah Moon or whoever going against Kolton Miller, but on the other side, I mean, is Thayer Munford? I know he's been hurt, and he was limited in practice today. That he's been playing the right tackle. He's listed as the right tackle. He's dealing with knee and ankle injuries. Was limited 2 days. We don't know about his Friday participation yet. I mean, like on the surface, regardless of if it's him or somebody else, TJ Watt. Yeah, going against whoever it might be. Like last year, Jermaine Illuminor, pretty solid player on the right side, and up to that point against the Steelers in like week 4, whatever it was when we played them, he hadn't even given up a pressure, and then TJ had like 6 and 2 sacks against him. What do you make of that matchup, though?
Yeah, I mean that one's a huge mismatch that the Raiders are gonna. I don't know what the solution is. I mean, I think the normal solutions for teams that play the Steelers is they're just going to chip block a bunch of people. So they're going to chip block the edges. I would anticipate
Michael Mayer's the second tight end though.
Yeah, I don't know who their third guy is. I think he's number 84. But he seems to be in the game when I'm watching and as a blocker. So
Harrison Bryant, former Brown. Yeah.
Who? Harrison Bryant. Okay, they'll probably just use him as the crash dummy and say like, "Hey, go get in his way and try to hold him off so that we can throw the ball within 2.5 seconds." That's going to be the game plan. The Steelers can do some things. Like there are ways to get around that. I'm waiting for the Steelers to, get a little bit more aggressive to kind of free TJ up a little bit more. TJ has been really like he's been TJ this season. It's just like opposing teams like are being extremely intentional, maybe even more so than they have in years past in terms of like not giving him as many one-on-ones on the outside. So there are ways to free him up. It's just they haven't really pushed those buttons or being willing to push those buttons yet.
Yeah. Okay. Let's swing around because I want to talk about the Steelers offense a little bit here. I want to talk about the tackles with the matchups that they're going to have. You mentioned on the other side of Maxx Crosby, there isn't much going on there because of injuries and stuff like that. Maxx Crosby hasn't practiced the last couple of days. He missed the game last week. He was there today doing stuff. Looks like he's probably going to give it a go. I would imagine with it being Maxx Crosby. And I know that he can move around a little bit, but typically lines up against the team's right tackle. So you figure Broderick's going to see a lot of them. Big test on Sunday for 77.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the way that we feel about Munford against Watt is the way that they feel about Crosby versus Jones. So, Crosby actually he missed week 4. He played last week. He had 2 sacks, but I don't think that he looked, to me personally, I don't think he looked like 100%. Just full disclosure, but he did have 2 sacks. So I mean, I guess the bar is pretty good.
Dude, I'm telling you, anything that happened last Sunday with me being at that game
just didn't happen.
I just completely
Yes,
it was the previous week that they played Cleveland and he didn't play.
Yeah, he didn't play. But I mean, they do a lot of different things with Crosby. I think last year they've kind of messed around a little bit with like using him as a spinner, using him as like what everybody's doing with like the jet fronts, and they're putting their best pass rusher over the center. So like that could be something that they maybe look at in terms of like getting him matched up on Frazier. Another thing, and this is like one thing that I've noticed that Graham likes to do. I don't know if I tweeted this clip or not, but one of the things so Crosby, he gets chipped a lot too. But one of the things that they'll do is they'll overload his side. So what they'll do is they'll try to slide everybody and take up blockers, and then they'll loop him around on like stunts. And it got him a sack. I think it was against the Ravens, if I remember correctly. But that's like pretty much how they did it. They just overloaded the slide and then had him stunt around or loop around. And he's really athletic. Crosby loves the two-hand swipe, so it's really important for Broderick to make sure he doesn't give up his outside hand. He did that last week and probably should have given up a sack, but the ball got out quick. So, yeah, we'll see. I don't anticipate if the Steelers are smart. Arthur Smith's like, I think he's done a pretty good job with like the protection stuff for the most part this year. I don't anticipate very many true drop back one-on-ones between Broderick and Crosby. I think they're smarter than that. I hope so anyway.
I want to clarify something too. Also, Zamir White did practice today, returned to practice. So we'll see if he's able to give it a, not that he's like a needle moving back or anything like that, but he's probably the best of the three, I think, at least as a pure runner. So we'll see if Zamir White's able to get back in there for this game on Sunday. But every other matchup, what do we make of this? Obviously, man, there's been a ton of talk this week about George Pickens, his involvement.
Has there? I haven't seen anything.
Dude, we ended up, I got to apologize for the Steelers Afternoon Drive crowd. 3 episodes of the 4 that have gone out so far this week had Pickens in the title. It was a talking point every single day. So we apologize for that. Hopefully that doesn't continue. Hopefully, George is able to shut out that noise and shut down that noise. Starting with this Sunday's performance. What are we expecting? Like, I don't know. Are you going into this thinking like we're just going to continue to see these snap count things? They don't want him in there unless it is a play where he's getting the ball. Because Allen has a theory that that's like George being okay with it too. Like he doesn't want to be on the field unless he's getting the ball, and he's kind of accepted that.
I just can't. I can't. I'm not laughing at Allen. I'm just all the conspiracy theories I've seen like floating around about like what is and what isn't happening. It feels so obvious to me of like what is happening that I don't know. It feels so funny that we're even talking about it. I'm not going to talk a lot about George because you just said that y'all have covered pretty much probably every base imaginable. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I don't really have the answer to like if they'll look to do the snap count, the load management stuff. I don't know. I hope not. I would like to see him on the field again when they go 2 wide receiver sets. I mean, I pointed this out, but I mean, on the season, like up until last week, they had run like 40 plays, thrown the ball on 40 plays with 2 wide receivers on the field. He had run 34 routes. Last week, they threw the ball with 2 wide receivers on the field 8 times, and he was off the field every single one of them. So like that was the big change that led to the snap count reduction. So, yeah, I mean, whatever, we'll see what happens. I mean, the good news is like I think that there are advantageous matchups on the outside. Like the Raiders are playing 2 corners that weigh about, I don't know, like maybe like 10 pounds more than I do. They're probably like $175 or $180 or something like that. I don't know. They're small corners. Jack Jones, a really rail thin guy. Jakobi and Bennett, he's got a little more like thickness to him, but he's a smaller dude as well. So there's definitely going to be some like jump ball matchups on the outside. Like if they want those one-on-ones outside the numbers, like he's going to have chances to win on some fades for sure. I think there are other like matchups that I would probably look at taking advantage of too. Like in particular, like Freiermuth. Like I think that they should start, I don't know, throw him the ball more on 3rd down because he's been open. That would be probably like one of the fixes that I would make to some of the passing game stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of things that like you could probably tweak with the passing offense, but I mean they clearly need guys to step up and they need to move the ball more, score more points.
Who if I mean I don't know how much Raiders you've watched other than just like that you posted some clips today of Jakobi Meyers and stuff. Who do you expect defensively for them to kind of get that matchup with Pat?
I mean it kind of just depends. So like Graham, he's different. Like him, like, so the Raiders defense, I'm trying to think of like a good way to describe this off the top of my head, but the Raiders defense is like completely different than the Steelers defense. The Steelers defense is like predictable to where you know what you're going to get like 80% of the time, but they have a ton of talent. The Raiders defense doesn't really have very much talent at all, but it's like a Rolodex of stuff that he can change like on a week-to-week basis. So like Graham's really good. Like he does different stuff every week to kind of keep you off balance, and you don't really know like as much about what you're going to get. They do a lot of 3 buzz stuff, so they'll play like some zone, but they will play like man coverage, especially on like 3rd downs and stuff like that too. So like that's something kind of be noteworthy of. They'll blitz. They blitz a lot on first down, so that's something like too. But I mean, their safeties. One of the things I want to talk about too, like their safeties. Trayvon Merrick, he's a good player with the ball in the air, but their entire defense is terrible at tackling. So like it doesn't really matter. Like Spillane is the only good tackler they got on that defense. Everybody else, you can drag them. Some of them don't even want to tackle. It's bad. They've missed at least 12 tackles in the last 4 games. They missed, I think, 19, last week or the week before. It was bad. Yeah. And like Pat's their best player after the catch. So like you just got to make sure that you get him the ball underneath and in the intermediate part of the field. And then like let some of them 175-pound DBs, let them come up and tackle. Let's just see how many times they want to do it. Because I personally, I don't think they want to do it. So
yeah, I was a big Trayvon Merritt fan when he was coming out of the draft. I think that there's some talented dudes, especially on the back end of that defense. But to your point, when you don't have Wilkins, when you don't have many guys in that front 7 that want to tackle, or even on the back ends with do you think it's more of a mindset thing for the DBs, or just because of their weight they can't? Because I know that like Jack Jones, there's been a lot of talk about the effort even within that. So yeah,
he was who I was talking about specifically with the I don't know if he actually wants to. Yeah, I mean, you can see it. Like another thing with the Raiders is like I kind of just wanted to go back and watch the film because I know like everybody, like, well, not everybody, Pierce himself made a big deal about like people was making business decisions. So I went back and watched the film just to kind of see what was going on. And I think the Raiders defense, like, I think if you get a lead on them, I think some of their players just kind of like start getting a little lackadaisical. So some business decisions, the effort looks a little bit different in the fourth quarter when they're playing from behind. So, I mean, we talk about it every week. I mean, I wrote about it last week. The Steelers this week, the Steelers need to start faster, start faster on offense, score more points. They're near the bottom of the league in first quarter points. The defense hasn't even been very good, or as good as they probably should have been in the first quarter of games. So, I mean, this is one that if they can get a lead, I think some of the Raiders players, they just might call it quits. So that would be nice. But yeah, make those DBs tackle. There's a lot of them that are bad at it.
Last thing before we do our predictions for the game that we got to talk about here, Justin Fields. What do we expect to see from him on Sunday? Russell Wilson going to operate as the number 2 now. So, Justin's got him breathing down his neck. I don't know how Justin's saying the right things, certainly in terms of how he's going to handle the situation. But, fans, certainly a certain subset of the fan base, just waiting for Justin Fields to make that one mistake to put Russell Wilson into the lineup. What do you expect from Justin on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, Justin's a smart dude. He understands what's going on. I think that, there's going to be noise. But like I kind of wrote about this today, like he just got to do what he does and like play within the structure of the offense. There was times last week where, or really over the past, really Sunday night especially, where I just felt like there were some turndowns on film that were a little bit concerning. There are things as a quarterback that are in your control and out of your control. It's just like anything in life. Like what is out of his control is like who is his wide receiver 2 on the outside. Like he can't control that. That is out of his control. But what he can control is like when the offensive coordinator is dialing up stuff and you got wide open crossers over the middle of the field and you're turning them down to throw YOLO balls down the field, that's within his control. So like, I'm not expecting him to be perfect or go out there and throw for 4 touchdowns or anything like that, or, be the franchise guy that, we're, talking about for the next 15 years or anything like that, but just execute the offense, play within yourself, do the best that he can. And like, if you go out there and you execute the offense, take the plays that are there, take care of the football, and you win the game, he can exit this thing 4-2 and then force the coaches to make a difficult decision. If they want to, like, if he goes out there and plays, reasonably well, and he maintains like the, middle of the pack among NFL starting quarterbacks and like EPA per play and success rate and all the statistical measurements that we want to talk about. If the Steelers want to go with Russ to see if there's a higher ceiling there, then that's their decision. Justin can't control that. What he can't control is just going out there and playing ball on Sunday. So he's a smart dude. He's a really tough kid, I think, physically and mentally. So I don't think that this will necessarily bother him. I'm excited to see what he does with the opportunity. And, whatever they decide after that is, it's out of everybody's control.
I'm curious to see how you feel about your prediction for this week, because pretty much every week I keep predicting the Steelers to score like, over 24 points or something like that. This year they've scored 18, 13, 20. Should have been 27 though. I mean, they kneeled it out on the 1 yard line. Najee, going down at the 1 and then they kneel it out.
Sure.
24 and then 17. So I'm very hesitant to give my prediction for this week. So I'm going to let you go first.
Is Roman Wilson going to play? Do we know?
I guess we should bring that up first. The helmet math, certainly, like, it's hard to not have him in because of how many guys are going to be out.
It almost feels like they're being bullied into playing. And with
there's like no healthy. There's going to be no healthy scratches.
Yeah,
like it's going to be who's the Max Sharping is going to be the healthy scratch, and then everybody else is going to be playing. So, predictively, yes, I think Roman Wilson finally gets a helmet Sunday.
Okay. I don't know. I kind of want to, I've seen some things that makes me want to say that he could get a big play or something like that off a crosser, or maybe even score. The Broncos had a red zone touchdown last week where they ran Josh Reynolds on a deep crosser in the end zone, ended up scoring a touchdown. But
we should also be able to do that with Josh Reynolds. But
yeah, it's crazy. Too much money, man. But no, I think maybe that's something they do in the red zone with Roman. I expect if he does play, I think he's going to have a very specific package of plays. That would be my preference anyway. Like, just get him on the field on third downs when you know you're going to throw the ball. The other thing too, I'll say like my bold prediction, and it's going to be funny because like people are going to they're going to come at me on Twitter, even though I think it's hilarious. I think George Pickens has a big game. So that'll be my prediction. I think he goes.
Called it last week, can't do it.
I think he goes season high for receiving yards. I think he gets in the end zone, and then on top of that bold prediction, I think we get some sort of like sassy, typical cryptic wide receiver Instagram post or something like that right after the game.
Post game. All right.
Yeah, post game. So I'll double down on that.
Yeah. All right, that's a good call. My bold prediction is going to be out there. Like, if this happens, I want pats on the back. I want everybody to come back to this and clip it. A non-quarterback is going to throw a touchdown in this one.
Okay.
Art's getting in his bag. If you want me to say a player specifically, Connor Heyward is throwing a touchdown in this football game.
Okay.
Defensively, I was on the money last week. I got the JPJ pick. Although him or Minka probably could have had that. He kind of took it away from him. Minka just had a kid. Minka's getting a pick. It's time. 17 games or whatever it's been.
I was about to say, he's been on a streak. Yeah. That's a real thing too. Like, there's people in the NBA all the time that have crazy games after they have kids. Like, it's wild. So that's a real thing.
Yeah. So Minka's getting a turnover. You know what? I'm going to, since I went so bold with the offensive one, I'll broaden it a little bit. I'll be so any type of turnover for Minka Fitzpatrick. It does not necessarily be an interception. He's getting a turnover on Sunday. And then my score prediction, this is why I'm they hit 20 again this week. We're going to do a 20-13 Steelers win.
I'll say like 23-13. I think they win this one by double digits.
Okay. 10 points. A 10-point Steelers win is like somebody else winning by like 30. Like, we're going to be sitting very
There's a multiplier.
Yeah, we're going to be sitting very comfy with a 10-point win.
Yep.
All right, before we get out of here, DB, you know the drill. Tell people they can find you.
At Steelers_DB on Twitter /X and on YouTube. All my written work can be found at SteelersNow.com.
Anything exciting coming up? Anything big? I know you've been doing, if people aren't aware, you've been doing that new thing with the film, which I think is pretty cool. The film rewind. But you got anything else in the works?
Yeah, I did an 1.5-hour live stream this week with my channel members going over it was a banger. But I went through every single play of the offense from the Cowboys game, and then there's also another film room going over the defense on my YouTube channel. So if you guys want more like X's and O's type stuff, that's definitely the place to be for sure. And then for Steelers Now, I wrote about what I kind of see as the 5 biggest issues with this Steelers team. coming off the 2-game losing streak. What's what's fixable, what's not, how do they get it done, what's the best course of action kind of moving forward, kind of a really in-depth piece up on there as well. So check that out.
5 biggest issues. Wide receiver 1's not happy. Wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4.
Yeah, the wide receiver room. The wide receiver one was bullet number 2. Hashtag spoiler alert.
All right, well, there we go. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you are here on YouTube. Hit us in the comments with your thoughts on the game, what your predictions are, if you have any bold predictions for this weekend as well. If you are listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, you can find us there. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Leave us a 5-star review and subscribe over there. And you can also follow us, Steelers Afternoon Drive, on TikTok. And then you can find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. For Derrick Bell and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.